Hello folks, Wolf Ninja here bringing you another nerdy video. Today we're going to be talking about the Paladin, and I don't know if many people were looking forward to this or how many people prefer the Paladin. I know a couple of players who love the Paladin and like playing him as the holy religious warrior. I know players who share my point of view with the fact that they're not as religious as past editions and see them more as the standard typical knightly character, which again I see sort of reflected in the fact that they have limited cast, like the fact that they don't cast as much spells, but a lot of their spells are good or knightly. For example, they're one of the few classes, I think it's the, yeah, to my knowledge, it's the only class that gets the spell Find Steed, which allows you to create like a spectral mount. So, now the Chevalier does knights in a standard training, armor, and horse riding training. Like it focuses more on that training, whereas whereas a typical knight by oath, nobility and whatnot, I personally find that the paladins fit that route, and I know a couple of others who agree with that. So let's get straight down into it, folks, shall we? Alright, Paladin. Clad in plate armour that gleams in the sunlight, despite the dust and grime of long travel, a human lays down her sword and shield and places her hand on a mortally wounded man. Divine radiance shines from her hands. The man's wounds knit close, and his eyes open wide with amazement. A dwarf crouches behind an outcrop, his black cloak making him nearly invisible in the night, and watches an orc warband celebrate its recent victory. Silently he stalks into their midst and whispers a note. The two orcs are dead before they even realize he's there. Silver hair shining in a shaft of light that seems to illuminate only him. An elf laughs with exultation. His spear flashes like his eyes as he jabs again and again at the twisted giant, until at last his light overcomes its hideous darkness. Whatever their origin and their mission, paladins are united by their oaths to stand against the forces of evil, whether sworn before God's altar and the witness of a priest in a sacred glade, before nature spirits and the fae beings, or a moment of desperation and grief with the dead, as the only witness. A paladin's oath is a powerful bond. It is the source of power that turns a devout warrior into a blessed champion. Now, that right there, folks, that last bit, to me, shows that a paladin does not need to be a devout warrior. Now, don't get me wrong, you can. That is not to say you can't. It's quite clear, from the start of that paragraph to the end, it's quite clear you can either play a religious warrior who has connections or who worships a deity, or you could just be a person who swore an oath and is completely driven to uphold it. And that is sort of reflected in the types of sacred oaths, because not all the oaths revolve around a deity. There's Oath of the Crown, which we'll get into when we talk about archetypes for the paladin. But like the Oath of the Crown, I'm just going to use as an example. You're swearing fealty, and your oath revolves around a kingdom, a king or a kingdom. It has nothing to do with a god. Now, that's not to say, like, gods are always looking down at people. They don't just look down at their followers. So, say, for example, using Mount Mercer's deities, Cord, the Stormlord. He looks over warriors, people of determination, who often prove themselves in battle. Maybe he's looking down. Maybe he looked down at this person who is the last of his village, and or the last of a battalion, Like he was just like a normal soldier fighting to stop some evil creatures. But the orc warband slot through his numbers, and he's the last survivor. And he saw the horrors that this band, by the order of their war boss, did. He then swears on oath to wipe out this warband and all warbands like it. Maybe Cord would be like, yeah, this guy proved himself. He's using his strength and all that. So Cord may lend this paladin his strength. Despite the fact that this figure may not even worship Cord, he may worship a different god. But Cord himself has decided to bless this warrior, giving him gifts. So, now again, the archetypes are called sacred oaths, but again, just from this last bit, or it's not even to deities, like the Fae, you can even be swearing towards the nature spirits and the Fae. Fae maybe have the power to bestow powers, such as, like, for example, with the Warlock patrons, but that doesn't make them gods. So, again, to me, paladins are not religious warriors. They are. Now, I've seen some D&D YouTubers who dispute that. They believe paladins are religious holy knights that are always lawful good. And I've even seen moments where such YouTubers, when a person comments parts of this player's handbook, they talked about this bit. He then they say maybe you should open up your mind a bit more to the possibility that they may have changed the way the class is from previous editions. I've seen such YouTubers reply to those type of comments who disagree with them as simply, "You are wrong." So no debate, no discussion. And yes, in some D&D now in my tables, I go based on the idea that paladins don't have to be religious. They don't have to be. Now they can be. I'm not going to say no, but they don't have to be. Whereas I know some DMs. I know one. I think I know two in particular that believe paladins always have to be good guys. They always have to be, and they always have to be religious knights. They're basically clerics, except they're more devoted to combat than they are to their magic. Again, I disagree, just based off of what we just read right there. But anyway, let's get on with it. Now, the next section is called The Cause of the Righteousness. A paladin swears to uphold justice and righteousness, to stand the good things of the world against the encroaching darkness, and to hunt the forces of evil, wherever they lurk. Different paladins focus on various aspects of the cause of righteousness, but all are bound by the oaths that grant them their power to do their sacred work. Although many paladins are devoted to gods of good, a paladin's power comes as much from a commitment to justice itself as it does from a god. Paladins train for years to learn the skills of combat, mastering a variety of weapons and armor. Even so, their martial skills are secondary to the magical power they wield. The power to heal the sick and injured, to smite the wicked and the undead, and to protect the innocents from those who join them in the fight for justice. And again, exactly just there. In this section, Cause of Righteousness, even talks about that their power comes from their power more so comes from their oath and their dedication than it does come from a god or even divine worship. So you can even have a paladin who has his power and it's not even bestowed to him by a god. Now, don't get me wrong. Like with a cleric and a warlock, when paladin is one of those characters where you have to be very mindful of your role playing, because a paladin is not gonna. If a paladin of, say, like the crown goes against his sacred oath to uphold the laws of his king, then he's gonna break. If he breaks that oath and starts, tricking people and whatnot, and he basically if he breaks his oath, either change him to an oath breaker from the Dungeon Master's Guide, or if he fits that bill, or switch him to a different oath. So again, you have to be very careful when it comes to playing as a paladin, because you have to play into your sacred oath. So let's continue on. Beyond the mundane life. Almost by definition, the life of a paladin is an adventuring life. Unless a lasting injury has taken him or her away from adventuring for a time, every paladin lives on the front lines of the cosmic struggles against evil. Fires are rare enough amongst the ranks of the militias and armies of the world, but even fewer people can claim the true calling of a paladin. When they do receive the call, these warriors turn from their former occupations and take up arms to fight evil. Sometimes their oaths lead them into the service of the crown as the leaders of elite groups of knights, but even their loyalty is first to the cause of righteousness, not to the crown and country. Adventuring paladins take their work seriously. A delve into an ancient ruin or dusty crypt can be a quest driven by a higher purpose than the acquisition of treasure. Evil lurks in dungeons and primeval forests, and even the smallest victory against it can tilt the cosmic balance away from oblivion. So, again, this all does lead into playing like good paladins, but I've seen people play like neutral. Like some people look at some of the oaths, and how should I put it? A lot of people look at the oaths and see that there's a little bit of wiggle room. Now, to me, a paladin, if depending on the discussion and depending on the oath, I may allow a player to play a different aligned like a different alignment type of paladin, but there are certain sacred oaths where I believe it would be difficult to play a non-good aligned paladin. But the one alignment I do believe, with the exception of the Oath of Treachery or Trickery it's called, I can't remember, it's from Xanatar's Guide, there's that oath in particular I believe is more in line with chaotic. Oathbreaker is also chaotic. For me, the one alignment restriction I do hard believe in, unless it's with this particular oath, is lawful. Creating a paladin. Here's some tips about that you should take into consideration. The most important aspect of a paladin character is the nature of his or her holy quest. Although the class features related to your oath don't appear until you reach 3rd level, plan ahead for that choice by reading the oath descriptions at the end of the class. Are you a devoted servant of good loyal to the gods, of justice and honour, a holy knight in shine armour venturing forth to smite evil? Are you a glorious champion of the light, cherishing everything beautiful that stands against the shadow? A knight whose oath descends from traditions older than many of the gods? Or are you an embittered lone sworn to take vengeance on those who have done great evil, sent as an angel of death by the gods, or driven by your need for revenge? And then it says Appendix B lists many deities worshipped by paladins throughout the multiverse, such as Torn, Tyr, Uranus, Paladine, Kiri Jullet, Dol, Arat the Silver Flame, Bahamut, Athena, Ray Horkt, and Heimdall. How did you experience your call to serve as a paladin? Did you hear a whisper from an unseen god or an angel while you were at prayer? Did another paladin sense the potential within you and decide to train you as a squire? Or does some terrible event, the destruction of your home perhaps, drive you to your quests? Perhaps you stumbled into the sacred grove or hidden elven enclave and found yourself called to protect all such refuges of goodness and beauty. Or you might have known from your earliest memories that a paladin life was your calling, almost as if you had been sent into the world with that purpose stamped onto your soul. As guardians against the forces of the wickedness, paladins are rarely an evil alignment. Most of them walk the paths of charity and justice. Consider how your alignment colours the way you pursue your holy quest, and the manner in which you conduct yourself before God's immortals. Your oath and alignment might be in harmony, or your oath might represent standards of behaviour that you have not yet attained. Now again, alignments can... this sort of reflects also on the concept that I have that, and again, other DMs have, that alignment is not fixed. Alignments alignment can shift as a person grows. Like everyone can be born neutral good when they're born as babies. They haven't actually no. All people could be technically born neutral. They have not yet committed any acts of atrocities or goodness. But then, as you live your life, the choices you make shift your alignment to your alignment then shifts that way, and the same can be said as you continue your path. So a lawful good character may end up having a lawful character may end up seeing that his methods are not working to stop stuff, and he realizes he needs to be a bit more harsher, more stricter with his pursuits. So he starts going towards the evil or the chaotic alignment. Maybe he believes in the end that the ends justify the means, and he even again goes to such brutalities. Instead of just going after criminals, he tries to prevent the criminals. You know? So maybe he ends up becoming a villain to fight villains. That could push you towards either chaotic good or even towards lawful evil. You're trying to uphold order, but you're willing to do evil acts to uphold it. Again, it's alignment shifts. You know, are you a type of paladin who's going to fight fire with fire? You know, now vengeance is one of those. The oath of vengeance is one of those alignments. Sorry, it's one of those oaths that I believe has a lot more wiggle room in how you play your character in terms of alignment. Whereas, let's see, there was one oath, I can't remember for the life of me. There's one oath that I feel like is it's very hard to argue. I'm sure we'll get to it at some point. But anyway, there's the quick build. So if you're looking to create a paladin in a very short time to play a one shot or whatever, here's some tips for creating a paladin very quickly. First, strength should be your highest ability score, then followed by charisma, and then choose the noble background. Because as I said, paladins are sort of also knights, as described earlier. That maybe were a squire to a paladin. So, and in most traditional standpoints, knights were nobles. So yeah, fighter is someone who may have ascended to fighters can fit the knightly personification, especially with the chevalier. But a fighter can be pretty much anyone who was brought up from a sellsword who then achieved nobility, you know, and he then achieved whatnot. Whereas with a paladin, chances are you're more likely to be a noble. Now again, you don't have to. I'm just saying this is my understanding of the quick build. You can make whatever paladin, you can make even a criminal paladin in the sense of with the Oath of Vengeance if you plan to go that route. You could go like a Batman route, I suppose, or a Red Hood. But okay. Now your hit points start at your hit dice for paladin level is a D10. Your hit points at first level is 10 plus your Constitution modifier. Hold on, let me get a sip of my tea. And your hit points at higher levels is 1d10 or a 6 plus your Constitution modifier per level after first. I like taking the averages, but sometimes it's worth the risk. Now, in terms of your proficiency, you're proficient in all weapons and all armors and the shields. Now, I like to use the exotic weapons PDF that I found from Tumblr. So, and that has special rules based on how you get proficiencies with exotic weapons. No class starts with exotic weapon proficiency, sadly. The monk starts off with a few, I believe. No, sorry, they're treated as just what's it called, monk weapons. You don't actually have proficiency with them. But again, it's a nice system. The Razar weapons are really cool. I will talk about them at some point. Uh, you're not proficient in any tools, but you might be based on your background. Your saving throws with this class are Wisdom and Charisma, and the skills you get to pick from, you get to choose two from the following: Athletics, Insight, Intimidation, Medicine, Persuasion, and Religion. So there you go. And your starting equipment, if you're not taking starting wealth, which again starting wealth is covered in a later section, you can start off with a martial weapon and a shield, or two martial weapons if you want to go like two short swords or two long swords. You also get five javelins and or any simple weapon. I would probably take the martial weapon and a shield and then five javelins, give you that little bit of range. And yeah, you can start off with a priest pack or an explorer's pack. And you automatically get chainmail and a holy symbol with your character. Now, see, I find this is one of the, again, because magic has like spell focuses and all that, it sort of annoys me that like the way they pitch the paladin is, again, it's straightforward. The paladin does not have to be a religious warrior, and yet they tied your spell casting and your abilities with stuff that you could associate with God. That's one of those things where I'm just like, really? So, it's when it comes to paladin, the lore behind a paladin talks about how you're not, gives you the points of not making a religious, warrior, but then mechanically they make it appear as a religious warrior. It's very confusing. So yeah, folks. As when I mention all these abilities, just keep in mind of the lore section. We're now getting into the mechanics. Okay. Now we're gonna just talk about. Let's get to your spellcast, because you are a spellcaster, but you're not as strong of a spellcaster as other classes. Your highest level is 5th. Okay. You get no cantrips with this class. It does have spellcasting, but it's very restricted. No cantrips. First level, you have no magic whatsoever. Second level, you get access to 2 first level spells. Then at third level, you get an additional first level spell slot, giving you a total of 3. And then when you reach 5th level, you will have a total of 4 first level spell slots, and that is your maximum for first level spell slots up until level 20. Now you get access to second level spell slots and spells at 5th level. You start off with 2 spell slots, and then at level 7 you get your 3rd spell slot for second level, and that is your maximum for the class. You get your 3rd level spell slots at 9th level. You start off with 2 spell slots for that for that level, and then at level 11 you get your third level spell slot, and that is your maximum for this class. You get your 4th level spell slots and spells at level 13. You start off with 1 this time, and then you get your 2nd at 5th, and then your 3rd at 17th level, and then that is your maximum. Now your 5th level spell slots, which are your strongest level magic and spells, is at level 17. You start off with 1 spell slot, and then at level 19 you get an additional spell slot, giving you a total of 2, which is your maximum for the remainder of this class. So as you can see there, folks, very limited, very low, about little over halfway, we'll say, over half of the spell slot level of other classes. Even the warlock has, I think, some abilities that allow them to go beyond 5th. But again, the paladin focuses more on combat than he does spell slinging. Your spell slots are more to amplify your combat prowess, and that's how. Now there are some that do deal damage. You can get like Sacred Flame, which is a decent range spell, but but at a certain point, it gets some of your paladin abilities may even ask you to spend a spell slot, and we'll get into that later. So okay, let's move on now. One of your first abilities is Divine Sense. The presence of strong evil registers on your senses like a noxious odor, and a powerful good rings like heavenly music in your ears. As an action, you can open your awareness to detect such forces. Until the end of your next turn, you know the location of any celestial, fiend, or undead within 60 feet of you, and that is not behind total cover. You know the type, celestial, fiend, or undead of any being whose presence you sense, but not its identity. Vampire, and then in brackets, the vampire Count Strad von Zorvich, for instance. So, say for example, Zorich is hidden, is invisible in a room with you. As a paladin, you could sense him and be like, that's an undead. But you won't know the identity of the undead. Like for you, you'll be like, you'll look around, you'll be like, okay, it's either a ghost, a specter, but what exactly is it? You know, it might even be it might be a spellcasting vampire, but you wouldn't know that it's Count Strad. Within the same radius, also you detect the presence of any place or object that has been consecrated or desecrated, as with the Hollow spell. You can use this feature a number of times equal to 1 plus your charisma modifier. When you finish a long rest, you regain all expend uses. So also with this divine sense, you also get the sense of what areas are good and what area have been desecrated. Your other ability is Lay on Hands. I think that actually has its own thing in the table earlier. Does it not? No, it doesn't. That's strange. Lay on Hands. There you go. Your blessed touch can heal wounds. You have a pool of healing power that replenishes when you take a long rest. With the pool, you can restore a total of number of hit points equal to your paladin level times 5. As an action, you can touch a creature and draw power from the pool to restore a number of hit points to that creature to the maximum amount remaining in your pool. Alternatively, you can expend 5 hit points from your pool of healing to cure a target of 1 disease or neutralize 1 poison afflicting it. You can cure multiple diseases and neutralize multiple poisons with a single use of Lay on Hands, expending hit points separately for each one. This feature has no effect on undead and constructs. In my worlds, lycanthropy is not much of it. It's both a curse and a disease. Like, it can be bestowed upon by powerful creatures of nature or gods to a single target, but after that point, if that target then bites someone, it's transmitted like a disease. So it's both a curse and or a blessing in some cases, and a disease. So in my world, Lay on Hands can cure lycanthropy. It's not 100% only a magical ability in my worlds. And I like how it's 5 hit points for every disease. It's pretty interesting. Now, at second level, you get to choose a fighting style. You have defense, dueling, great weapon fighting, and protection. See, I like how they point right off the bat. They eliminate some of the other fighting styles that other classes got, such as archery, and more favoring more the fighting style that you would expect from a knight. We're not going to go too into the fighting styles because I've already covered them in the past. It is defense, dueling, great weapon fighting, and protection. I just decided to repeat them just there, just so that way you can find out yourselves. You also get access to your spell casting at second level. Now, let's see here. The Paladin table shows you how many spell slots you have to cast your spells. To cast one of your Paladin spells at first level or higher, you must expend a spell slot of the spell's level or higher. You regain all expended spell slots when you finish a long rest. So, there you go. A Paladin uses... Does a Paladin have his own spell list, though? That's what I'm curious about. Let's see. I think Paladins have their own spell list. I could have swore they used the Cleric spell list. But much like Clerics, you can swap out your spells every day. You might have noticed that I did not mention spells known. So you can swap out spells. So if your Paladin knows he's going on a lengthy trip, he may prepare, Flying Steed. The amount of spells you can prepare as a Paladin is your Charisma modifier plus half your Paladin level rounded down. Now again, this is to reflect the fact that you're not a complete caster. For example, a 5th level Paladin, you can have 4 first level spell slots. Sorry, 4 first levels and 2. There you go. With a Charisma of 14, your list of prepared spells can include 4 spells of first level and second level in any combination. So, yeah, with 14, there you go. It's very restricting, but what are you gonna do? Oh yeah, there is a Paladin spells required. Yeah, there you go. Yes, so yeah, I just remembered. Paladins definitely do have their own spell list because again, they're the only class that has access to the Flying Steed. Your spellcasting ability score is Charisma for this class. And you can use you have spellcasting focus, which is a holy symbol. Also, at second level, you have Divine Smite. Now, this is where one of your other uses of your spell slots come into play. So they're not just for casting spells, they're for also accessing some really cool abilities, such as the Divine Smite. Starting at second level, when you hit a creature with a melee attack, you can... Now, notice it says when you hit, not when you're making a spell attack. Sorry, melee attack, it's when you hit. You can expend 1 Paladin spell slot to deal radiant damage to the target, in addition to the weapon damage. The extra damage is 2d8 for a first level spell slot, plus 1d8 for each spell level higher than first, to a maximum of 5d8. The damage increases by 1d8 if the target is undead or fiend. Now that is pretty handy, because if you score a critical hit, you can then decide, oh yeah, I'm going to double all this damage die. So there you go. It's the same way with sneak attack. With a rogue, it's when you make an attack that hits. So you're like, I got a critical. Okay, then I am going to I'm going to put sneak attack on this as well. And if I'm multiclassing the Paladin, I'm going to put divine. I'm going to pump a Divine Smite into this as well. So double all the damage die. Oh, look at that. Over 40 damage. Pretty good. You're also at level 3, you have Divine Health. All that happens really from Divine Health is you become immune to diseases. At 3rd level, you also get to choose your Sacred Oath. Now remember, Sacred Oath is something that you should plan beforehand. The Sacred Oaths are Oath of Devotion, Oath of the Ancients, and Oath of Vengeance, and there's 2 more from Xanatar's Guide, and I think one of them is either Treachery or Trickery. I know one is no, that was a UA and it was scrapped. So the only other 2 oaths from Xanatar's Guide is Oath of Conquest and Oath of Redemption. So there you go, folks. Oath of I can't remember who it was, but one of my friends talked about the Oath of Conquest being one of those type of oaths that you could possibly do with an evil character. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Blue, or it was someone else that I play with. Oh, Damn, who was it? Oh well. Um, but anyway, so let's see. We're gonna stick with this is part one of this video. We're gonna stick to just the core class abilities. So we're not gonna go into oaths yet. Now there is something called oath spells. Each oath has a list of associated spells. You gain access to these spells at levels specified in the oath description. Once you gain access to an oath spell, you always have it prepared. Oath spells don't count against the number of spells you can prepare a day. So there you go, folks. And the oath spells can also be spells that are not actually on the paladin spell list. So you might get some wizard spells depending on your oath. But yeah, keep that in mind, folks. That oath spells are always prepared. You also get a channel divinity as well. Now, there's multiple channel divinities that you can get. You also get that is it. Yeah, so we'll get into channel divinities later on. When you reach 4th, 8th, 12th, and 16th and 19th level, you get your ASI, which again, folks, stands for Ability Score Improvement. And that means you can either increase one of your ability scores by 2, so if you have a 16 strength, it can become an 18, or you can increase 2 ability scores of your choice by 1, so strength and charisma, you can go by strength, 16 strength, 14 charisma, charisma can go up to 15 and strength can go up to 17, or you can end up taking a feat instead of an ASI. Now remember, folks, ASI is what I mean by ability score improvement. At level 5, you also get extra attack. Beginning at 5th level, you can attack twice instead of once whenever you take the attack action on your turn. At level 6, you have Aura of Protection. Starting at 6th level, whenever you or a friendly creature within 10 feet of you must make a saving throw, the creature gains a bonus to the saving throw equal to your charisma modifier, with a bonus minimum bonus of +1. You must be conscious to grant this bonus. At 18th level, the range of this aura increases to 30 feet. At 10th level, you have Aura of Courage. Starting at 10th level, you and friendly creatures within 10 feet of you can't be frightened while you are conscious. At level 18, this range is increased to 30 feet. By level 11, you have Improved Divine Smite. By level 11, you have suffused with Righteous Might, with that all your melee strikes carry divine power with them. Whenever you hit a creature with a melee weapon, that creature takes an extra 1d8 radiant damage. If you also use Divine Smite with an attack, you add this damage to the extra damage of your Divine Smite. So basically, once you reach level 11, you always add at least a d8 radiant damage to all your attacks. And then that stacks with the Divine Smite. So potentially, if you're hitting an undead and you're level 11, you deal 7d8 instead of the standard 6. At level 14, you have Cleansing Touch. You can use your action to end one spell on yourself or one willing creature that you touch. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your charisma modifier, minimum of once. You gain expended uses when you finish a long rest. So very handy when you're dealing against a boss or an enemy caster that is using spells to manipulate the battlefield. And then that is it, folks. That is all you get from just the ordinary paladin. You'll get the rest of your class. This class heavily revolves around your sacred oath, which we will get into in part 2. That will include the sacred oaths from the player's handbook, as well as the sacred oaths featuring from Xanatar's Guide. This is Wolf and Ninja, and I hope you watch second part of the Paladin series. May the Force be with you, and remember, roll for initiative.